Although I've never made a video on it ever, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is one of my favourite Star Wars games of all time. And while it doesn't necessarily have the story that I think it could have had, a story which I think is very simplistic but interesting nonetheless, the game in its own right is one of the most fun times I've had with a Star Wars game. There are some great characters, iconic moments, and while there are definitely things I would have changed to improve it in general, I think it was a lot of fun. But then again, saying that, I am pretty biased because I absolutely love Soulsborne, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro and whatnot, and combining Soulsborne with Star Wars was always going to be a perfect fit for me. But, as many of you know, on this channel we love to talk about story. And it's why Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 and its predecessor are two of my favourite video games and stories of all time, not just Star Wars. The sheer amount of depth in Knights of the Old Republic 2 is utterly astounding, to the point where I've been making videos about this game for like 4 years at this point, and I still have the capability to provide you with new perspectives and new content nearly 20 years after its release. And I believe that is testament to just how much quality there was within this game's writing and its storytelling. With that said though, there is a very interesting little connection between Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now, it's got nothing to do with KOTOR 2's canonical status or any kind of lore detail from KOTOR 2 that's now made canon, but what it does do is actually pay homage to Knights of the Old Republic 2 by providing its own perspective in a way on something that Knights of the Old Republic 2 did exceptionally well. But what exactly was that connection? Well, I will tell you in just a minute, because for now I need to talk about today's video sponsor. Have you ever walked up to a terminal in Knights of the Old Republic, pressed one button, and all of a sudden you're in, despite the fact that it is supposed to be secure? Well, if only the Star Wars galaxy had Surfshark VPN. It encrypts all of your data that's sent to the internet when you use any kind of public Wi-Fi, so you can rest assured that your information is going to be safe from any pesky utility droids with computer spikes or conventional hackers. But of course, the best thing about Surfshark VPN is that in a matter of seconds, you can change your virtual location to pretty much anywhere on Earth, gaining access to the streaming libraries of Netflix and other streaming services that might be locked in your region. And you don't have to worry about spending too much either. Using my discount code, you can get 83% off and 3 months for free, and if for some reason you still don't like it, it's fully refundable within the first 30 days. So make sure that the Force is with you when you're using the internet. Check out Surfshark VPN now. So if you're unaware, one of the writers of Jedi Fallen Order was actually the lead designer and the lead writer of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Chris Avellone. Chris was responsible for the main storyline of Knights of the Old Republic, which was a story that revolved quite heavily around echoes in the Force. The thing is, though, we don't specifically know what Chris wrote for Jedi Fallen Order. He wasn't in any kind of lead writing position, so he didn't have full control over the story, and I think that's pretty evident because the story of Jedi Fallen Order is rather simplistic, and Chris isn't really known for that. However, there is one major feature in the story of Jedi Fallen Order that revolves around none other than Force echoes. Now, you may have noticed this while playing the game, or perhaps you've never played it, but I think it's too much of a coincidence that the man who wrote a story that was so focused on the idea of Force echoes would have absolutely no connection to the Force echoes in Jedi Fallen Order. But with that said, what exactly is a Force echo? Well, in Knights of the Old Republic 2, a Force echo is described as such.
There are places in the galaxy, strong in the Force, light, dark. They are born in places teeming with life, and in places that are filled with death. Worlds whose surfaces are graveyards, whose screams echo through the Force. It is possible for war, for men to give birth to such places, to leave wounds on the galaxy itself. What you heard was the echo of the past, and it travels still. It is the past, the sound no one wishes to hear within them. That is the nature of echoes. And when there is a wound in the Force, It rarely leaves the life around it untouched.
So Kreia describes a Force Echo as something that essentially has a strong connection to the Force, whether it's light or dark, and it has such an imprint on the Force itself that it literally spreads itself across the galaxy like an echo. However, there is also an ability in the Star Wars universe that isn't touched upon in KOTOR 2, known as psychometry, which basically allows a Force user to pick up the echoes and translate them into a kind of vision or a voice, or something that they can literally perceive beyond its Force resonation. Now in KOTOR 2, an echo is something that can also cause damage. It can cause physical suffering to a Force user if it is powerful enough. And the story of KOTOR 2 in general was that Kreia was going to create a Force echo so powerful that every Jedi, every Sith, every Force user in the galaxy could literally feel the pain of the echo itself, and those that were strong enough within themselves could cut themselves off from the Force entirely to save themselves, or they would be killed by the Force echo, essentially stripping the entirety of the Force of its ability to connect with living beings. But obviously, in Jedi Fallen Order, there isn't anything quite as profound as a wound in the Force. Cal Kestis is actually a character who has the innate ability to pick up on Force echoes. As I mentioned, this ability is known as psychometry, and it allows him to perceive those echoes as a literal image in his mind, so he can hear it and feel it, and this allows him to essentially see the past. And most often, in Jedi Fallen Order, you will pick up the Force echoes off of the dead, which is a specific place that Kreia mentions that echoes are created, places of death. For example, there's one moment where you will pick up the echo of somebody who drowned in the water in an area on Zepho, and you can even pick up the echoes of a Jedi Master and her clone troopers on a downed Venator on Zepho 2. Now, all of these deaths as such are just echoes in the Force, and there's a reason why they are not wounds in the Force, because a wound has to be so profound that it literally breaks the fabric of the Force itself, and death in general doesn't really do that because death is a natural part of life. However, mass death is when a Force echo occurs. For example, this is actually a relatively unknown piece of knowledge, but the destruction of Alderaan is actually a wound in the Force. There's a reason why Obi-Wan comments on the destruction of Alderaan while he's on Tatooine, and that's because he felt the echoes of death created by the wound in the Force. And there's also a reason why Yoda drops to his knees on Kashyyyk after Order 66, because again, it creates a wound in the Force. Now obviously the movies don't explicitly call this a wound in the Force, but that is what they are feeling, a wound in the Force. But these echoes in Fallen Order don't quite have that same kind of potency, they are just memories of the past. And I do fundamentally believe that it was one of Chris Avalone's creative impacts upon the story of Jedi Fallen Order, but then again I could be totally wrong and he had no bearing on Force echoes in the game whatsoever, so who knows. But either way, this is something that I would absolutely love to see expanded upon in Jedi Survivor. What you can do with Force echoes could be so much more interesting than just, picking up collectibles across the map. We could be introduced to wounds in the Force, perhaps in Star Wars canon, and perhaps they could have an impact upon the story of Jedi Fallen Order and create a story that we haven't really seen in Star Wars besides Knights of the Old Republic 2. And I think this would just make for a more interesting story in general, but at the end of the day, I don't really think they're going to do that, but I can dream about these things, I guess. Now, I am really curious to know if any of you guys picked up on this connection when you first played Jedi Fallen Order, so let me know down in the comment section below, because I remember vividly playing through Jedi Fallen Order for the first time and instantly making this connection and thinking to myself, yeah, this is the impact that Chris Avalone has had on the story, because I knew at the time that he was writing for it in some way. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button because it helps me out a great deal. It will send this video out like an echo across the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't, perhaps consider subscribing to join the biggest growing Knights of the Old Republic community on YouTube. And lastly, don't forget to check out today's video sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Click my link in the video description to get 83% off. And honestly, with a 30-day money-back guarantee, it's a win-win for everybody. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.